Welcome to Drum and Drummer, a podcast focused on drums, drumming and drummers. I'm George Pickering and that's Ben Winty, and we are both professional drummers in this business we call music. So stick around and join us as we pass the time whilst trying to stay in time.
The band formerly known as Slaves, who now aren't called Slaves because...
The connotation.
Yeah.
Episode 107 coming at ya.
Coming at ya like Cleopatra.
Big time, baby. George.
Yep.
All right?
Yeah. Got the lurgy. It's finally got me.
Okay, the lurgy's got you. Yeah.
Yep.
Talk me through it.
Well, it was inevitable. Everyone's had it. And, it's just a matter of time. And it sort of happened at about 4 a.m. I just woke up and went, I'm ill. I feel like it's that. I feel like I get ill more like in one go now. Do you know what I mean? Whereas before it'd be like, got a bit of a, runny nose. Oh, maybe I've got a bit of a sore throat. Now it's just like, I'll be fine. And then half an hour later, it's like, I'm ill, So, yeah, I'm hoping it goes away as quickly as it came in, to be honest, because terrible night's sleep, very feverish. But, we're here. We carry on.
We carry on indeed.
No matter what. How are you?
Yeah, okay. It's now, for those who don't know, if they didn't hear last week, it's now a couple of weeks after my dad died, quite suddenly. I didn't really talk much about it last week. I'm not sure I still want to go into detail in that, but I think I'm definitely in the next phase of mourning, I guess you could say, because he died suddenly, so it was a shock.
Yeah.
There was a massive shock element to it. He wasn't ill or anything like that. It wasn't expected. And so I think there was definitely for quite a while a period of shock and disbelief really that it had happened. And he actually died quite far away up in Northumbria. So we weren't around. He'd gone up there for a walking holiday. And so there's a surrealness to that as well. We didn't see it, we didn't see anything. It's just all what we heard from speaking to his friend and speaking to police and hospitals and things like that. So there's definitely you got to make that. I think the surrealness then eventually kind of subsides and you accept sort of the fact it happens. And now maybe in a period of a joint thing of okay, what the in essence the admin side of things, tackling all that, because there's quite a lot to do when somebody dies, and if it's sudden as well, then there's been no preparation. There's been no kind of planning for it really, so there's a lot of things to sort out, and I'm trying to do as much as I can to take that side of thing off my mum's plate. But then there's sort of a period of a kind of, you could call it the more traditional mourning of sadness, and thinking about all those the side of things, looking back at when I last saw him, and looking back at growing up and all that stuff, but then also kind of looking forward to the things that now are going to be missing, if you see what I mean, because there's almost a stark contrast between, because my dad lived locally, and but I didn't see him every day. We didn't message every day even, but he was never that far away, and we did pop round to my parents and all that, and recently they'd moved to Gunwharf and going to go round, see the new flat, and they were readjusting their lives for a new phase of retirement. And now it's kind of all changed. But then you're thinking, well, you're kind of looking forward and going, well, the surrealness has subsided, but the reality is now kicking in of, I'm never going to see my dad again.
Yeah.
which can be in essence, like a brutal thought.
Yeah.
And it will come at you at any moment of the day, a thought like that, or something, and suddenly you go, oh, he's never gonna, he's not gonna be here at Christmas. Oh, I can't phone him to ask about the roof rack, how to fit a roof rack on the car. Those sorts of things. And so you just kind of go in between this period of like reflection, of looking back, but you're also kind of, then you got like the stark reality of looking forward, and the things he's going to miss out on, that he's not going to be around for, but then the things we're going to miss out on because he's not going to be around, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
But we're starting to make plans now for, the formal arrangements, as it were, like in what we're going to do, in terms of, inverted commas, a funeral sort of thing. We're sorting that out as a family. But what's been, I guess, the last 2 weeks, whilst you're experiencing all those different emotions and dealing with all that sort of thing, like the shock and the reality and all that side of things, you kind of, I still have a life to run myself. I still have things, but you have to, I've had to very carefully balance, like, making sure I'm looking after myself, but I'm trying to, looking after my mum, checking in with my brother, checking on with my dad's friend who was there when it happened. Dealing with admin side of things, with undertakers, with registering the death. We've eventually got to start looking at, death certificates and the financial aspect of it, with my mum, and pensions and bank accounts and all these sort of things. Logistically, there's another layer because he died in Northumbria. So you have that element of, he's, happened 300 odd miles away. That adds a layer of things. But then there's also, I have a business that needs to run, and I still have a flat that needs maintaining. And so, and fundamentally, gigs in the diary. So it's been you very much have to take things a day at a time. So it's like, I can't think about a few days out. What's tomorrow bringing? What am I doing tomorrow? What's the minimum I need to do? Is there anything essential I need to do? Is there anything? But also balancing with, I just need to take time myself. And so I've sort of, eased off in the studio in terms of like mixing. I'll just put some things to the back burners. I'll just speak to the clients, and they're fine with it. Just say, look, and they're like, yeah, no rush, whatever. Not whatever, but whenever you're ready, it's fine. Ben Y here at the studios picked up some extra shifts to help me out. But then I had gigs in the diary. So I had a Victoriana gig. So he passed away on a Tuesday, and I had a gig on the Friday. And I knew that there'd be no pressure for me to do the gig. And at some point, texting Neil on Tuesday evening to let him know my dad's passed away, and Neil has met my dad on several occasions here at the studio, and letting him know, as brutal as it is, at some point through his mind is going to go, we've got a gig on Friday, what are we going to do? In terms of, is Ben going to do the gig? Does he want to do the gig? Does he not? Do I have to line up a dep in case? But his dad's just died, so I can't message him go, you can't just then go, cool, are you doing the gig on Friday? But the longer you leave it, the less time there is to sort out something. But short story, I did do the gig. I did do the gig. I had a van booked. It was Victoria, and the five of us were all travelling together down to Exeter in a van, which is quite rare that happens, that we all travel together. And I just thought, like, as harsh as it is, but I do need the money. I do need to earn the money. If I don't do the gig, I don't earn the money. But I also thought everyone in the band I'm very close with, it will be a good distraction to go and spend time, to just have a day out, essentially, and do that. So I did the gig, but it's weird because, Neil let the others know, like, oh, just to let you know, Ben's dad died this week. And then it's interesting, the sort of, I turned up to meet everyone, and I turn up, and then there's an atmosphere that, that everyone's aware, and no one wants to say the wrong thing. And I've had amazing messages of support from people and things like that. But you turn up, and then it's suddenly like, oh, there's an elephant in the room here.
Yeah.
And you can see people not quite knowing what to say or how to act and things, which is totally understandable. And I'd be the same,
Yeah.
But it's then interesting from the point of view of, like, I wanted to do the gig. We had a good, it was good to see my friends and good to get out and have a change of scene and take my mind off it. But you can tell it's sort of on everyone's mind. But then also you're going to play someone's wedding. And so you're just in this weird kind of numb mental state of, like, I will do the job. I don't care about this gig, but I'll do it and I'll play it. You kind of don't, I don't know how to describe it, but you just feel like it's very difficult to take any joy from it.
Yeah. Because
you've got this big weight over you. And especially sort of so soon, all these sort of emotions and feelings, and looking back, looking forward, just thinking about the ramifications of your dad dying, and then you got to play Get Lucky.
Yeah.
It's a very weird sort of place to be in. And even then as well, like, I've had to come in and do studio work, and actually the recent episode with Eddie from Primus Drums, like, we recorded that before my dad died, but it wasn't edited. And as mental as this sounds, like, actually the following day after my dad passing, I came into work and I edited that episode, and I was really tired. It was, I'd been with my mum as much as possible, but it was like, I do want to get this episode out. But I also just think it will be good for me to go in and just 2 hours on Pro Tools, thinking about something else, feeling almost like, well, as much as, you can't just go fully back into work and do everything like it's normal. You can't do that. But you have to sort of, I guess, knowing I wanted to get that podcast done, even under those circumstances, gave me a sense of productivity and purpose. Like, there's a purpose to my day. Getting this done so it can be released is brings a purpose to the day, and I'm not just completely sat kind of wallowing. There's a reason, and that's why we do this podcast. That's why I do drumming and recording. There's a sense of purpose in your life, and I don't want it all to stop, and my dad wouldn't want it all to stop. So I wanted to get that done. And actually thinking about it, like, my dad's sister came down to see their new place a couple of weeks before, and I was off that evening, so I met up and we all went for dinner, and it was the day we actually recorded with Eddie, and I was sat next to my dad, and they said, oh, what have you been up to today? And I said, well, I did a bit of mixing, we also did a podcast interview. And knowing my dad, a ex-engineer, Navy officer, he'd be very interested that he worked for Rolls-Royce Aerospace. Yeah. So I said, oh, we interviewed this guy, Eddie. He builds his own drums, but he's also a full-time engineer at Rolls-Royce Aerospace. My dad's ears instantly perk up. Couldn't give a shit about the drumming element, but he's like, oh, okay, right, engineer, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And then I brought up the Primus Drums Instagram, and I showed my dad, and I said, look, these are the drums he made. And they look amazing. And my dad was like, oh, wow, they're actually... I guess, mate, I don't know if in his head he just thought, oh, someone just making drums. They can't look that good. But he was very impressed, actually, with, and that's kind of like the second to last time I saw my dad. And so I wanted to get that episode done and get it out there. But I've had to come to work. I've had to do things like just to keep the business running. I feel like today is the first day I feel kind of ready to do a normal day.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like, okay, I'm going to come in. I've got a track to mix and I've got rehearsals tonight, and I feel okay doing the whole day. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Rather than being like, I can only deal with doing one thing.
Yeah.
You know. So I sort of feel like, because there's an element of you go, oh, what's the point? What's the point in me mixing this song?
Yeah.
And especially with something like mixing, where I think you have to be, you know, emotionally invested in the song you're mixing. It's not just a binary job of A or B. There's art involved. And now I feel sort of ready to be like, okay, I'm ready to make decisions and make this song sound good and invest myself in that. Because it's hard to invest yourself in something when you're having to invest so much time and mental capacity to dealing with a death in the family, or making sure mum's okay, or making sure that people know. And then you've obviously got people, you know, the word spreads. It was spread through the village we grew up in, and it spreads to other friends and family, and people message you, and people sending cards, and it's all lovely. But every time that happens, it's another little reminder. It's another little, can set you back. It can set you on another train of thought. And actually had a very nice time with mum, you know, yesterday, and we just looking through some old photo albums, you know, and it was very nice. And then I got an email from one of Dad's ex-Navy colleagues with essentially like a load of tributes that are coming on LinkedIn, which I'm not on, but he said, and there's just so many people just writing so many nice things about my dad in a whole element of his life that I didn't really know about. I didn't know these people. I wasn't in the Navy. And then that can make you very upset in a way, you know. So, yeah, then I did a gig on Saturday with freshman year, and it's, again, what's weird is you're turning up, and this was someone's like joint 40th birthday, and it was like a punk rock themed party that they had, so they booked freshman year, which made complete sense. And you're sort of turning up, and these people are there to celebrate their birthday and blah 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 blah, and then you're just kind of stood there thinking like, well, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to tell them my dad's dead.
Yeah.
Or why would I? Because I don't want to bring the mood down. But also in this moment now, it's kind of irrelevant. But you're kind of having to be like, oh yeah, blah, you know, put on a front, essentially. You have to put on a bit of a front. Yeah. And actually, you know, but then you can just sort of weirdly think, you're like playing, and you're just like, oh, my dad's never going to hear me drum again. Like, those kinds of things. But it all, you know, it all just, time just subside, you know. But it's good to go and do it, and the gig was really good. So yeah, like, I think the surrealness has passed, sort of in the reality phase of it now, and allowing myself to look back with fondness, look forward with fondness, look back with sadness, look forward with sadness, go through those emotions. It's absolutely fine. And, you know, because ultimately, and as shitty as this sound, like, life moves on.
Yeah.
And my dad isn't aware of life moving on. For him, it's over now, but it does move on, and you have to move on. In doing that, there are elements you think, well, okay, he's not going to see me. He's not going to be there when I get married at some point, if I get married. You know, that enters your mind. Like, when that happens, he won't be there. And you kind of, it's, what's the word? Not innocent, naivety, but I guess you just always think they are going to be there. Or that you're, maybe particularly dad, like they are kind of invincible. That they are just, you've known them your whole life, and they're a kind of, not for everyone, but for most, they're a rock in your life. They're a fundamental part of it. They're always people you should be able to go to with problems or things. Of course, everyone has their little gripes or grievances or things like that, but that's now gone, and you sort of think, oh yeah, okay, it's different now.
Yeah.
But you things will move on, and you have to take all the good out of it you can. But yeah, so I think moving on, that's kind of where I'm at with it all.
Yeah.
Sorry to sort of ramble on, really.
No, please.
We're moving into the sort of next phase of admin, as it were, and how to formally say goodbye. In what we're discussing, sort of what capacity that'll be in. But I feel okay. I've been sleeping well, but I feel now like, okay, now I'm ready to sort of get back to more of a normal work week.
Yeah.
And start doing what I enjoy doing again.
I went to a gig. I'll tell you this quickly. The other night. This might have been where I got ill. I don't know, because it was a mosh pit. Electric Brixton. Went to see the band formerly known as Slaves, who now aren't called Slaves because
the connotation.
Yeah. So they're now called Soft Play. But they were great, and it felt like a real punk gig, Like,
is that the guy who stands up at the drum kit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who
They're like 2-piece, aren't they?
Yeah, 2-piece. I'd love to have them on the pod, or him, because that's even just the setup alone. And I know you were going to talk about ergonomics of a kit setup.
Yeah.
So that could be quite a good tie-in. But it was the day that Shane McGowan died, so it was very sort of centered around him, the gig, and it was just just a good gig. Sport band were great, and just like, oh, this is what a real gig is. You know what I mean? In terms of like, everyone's just, I don't know, mosh pits and people going mental, and you're sort of crushed in a crowd. And I'm like, oh, I haven't been to a gig like that in a while. It's quite nice. Not nice, but do you know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, this feels like punk rock, You're going
to a lot of gigs in London.
Yeah, it's been a lot.
What's going on?
I don't know. Just all of a sudden, all at once.
Are you going? Because it seems like some of these gigs, are someone going, I got a ticket to this, and you're just going, yeah, cool.
Yeah, it's mostly that.
Rather than going, I want to see this band, I'm going to book a ticket.
Yeah, well,
are they quite ad hoc? Are they quite ad lib? You going to these gigs?
What do you mean? What, as in me personally going to them? As in
are you booking tickets in advance, or is it a bit more like, oh, someone's got a spare one? Oh, a short notice, No,
it's been in the diary, but it's more sort of like, it's like anything, it's like if you need to buy a new pair of jeans, but you're like, well, the ones I've got at the moment are fine, so I'll just leave it at that. There's holes in them, but it's okay. It's kind of like that with gigs. There's a lot where I'm like, well, I'd like to see them one day, but I'll see them next time, So I've been a big fan of Slaves, and my brother almost had to be like, look, I'm getting you a ticket, come along. I was like, okay, so I'll go if someone drags me. But I am seeing The Darkness this month, a few weeks actually, and I bought that ticket myself, so that'll be fun.
Have you seen I saw there was a trailer for a film, like a documentary film.
What about The
Darkness?
Oh,
yeah.
Really? Oh, wow.
And I think it was going to be in cinemas for a weekend or something, but I'm sure it will be on some kind of streaming platform at some point.
Yeah.
But there's a little clip in the trailer of them on a tour bus, and who's in the clip? Emily Dylan Davis.
Oh, yeah, of course.
She sat there on the bus, yeah.
Wow. Speaking of Darkness drummer, he'd be a good one to have on.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's not discuss which guests we want mid-pod. Should we end with ergonomics of a drum kit then?
I think so, yeah.
It's something you mentioned before.
Yeah. I think it's something that's kind of more recently played a part in my thought process or in my conscience of how my kit's set up. And the reason I like to set up and pack away my own drum kit and not have anyone help is because I have this thing, right? So if if that maintaining order and hitting that reset button, whether it's cleaning your flat or how things are organised in your home or at work or things like that, and over time, gradually things can just move.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, it's in completely the wrong place.
Yeah.
And I think that can be with like drums. And I think sometimes I'd be like, oh, you just keep setting up and packing away, setting up, packing away. And all of a sudden you're just like, hang on a minute, I think that floor tom's just an inch lower than I actually like it. But it's just dropped like a millimetre over the space of a year or something like that. And I think as well, when we, speaking to drum techs and drummers on here, and things about, like Ben Thomas having his cymbals slightly tilted back.
Yeah.
Things like that. And actually really thinking about, I guess it could be a bit of a chicken and egg in terms of set things up so then you hit them, or you set them up because that's where you hit them.
Yeah.
If you see what I mean. So, and I think this can play into setting up your kit so it looks cool.
Yeah.
But that shouldn't be but in reality you're making it harder to play because of your natural body shape or your natural body movement. So what do you do first, And I think one big one for me is cymbal height. Yeah,
I was going to say that.
Because it looks quite cool to have tall cymbals.
Yeah.
But then they're just further away.
Yeah.
When you're playing the drums. But then I'm like, but actually I am quite tall.
Yeah.
As well. So thinking about where I have my right crash, not putting it where it looks good, not putting it where it's level, just going, where's the best place for this to sit for my natural striking position?
Yeah.
So and this got rammed home a little bit, and I know he won't mind me talking about this, but I recently recorded Young Pine again, Liam, the drummer, who we've had on the show. So we, I love working with those guys, and as we said when we chatted with Liam, like, he's always eager to learn and adapt and listen to maybe advice I've got, things like that, on a musical level, but also a drumming level. And we set up his kit, so I got the house kit and whatever, and we set it all up. And I just looked, and he was sort of warming. I said, have a warm up, have a play. And I just looked, and I was like, it just doesn't look right.
Yeah.
The movement he's having to do to get around the kit, where things are set up. I was like, this crash cymbal seems. I was just watching him play, and it was like that. This where he's hitting the crash isn't bringing out the best sound of the crash.
Yeah.
Because the height's, in my opinion, the height's wrong for where his arm is, or he's not adjusting it properly. So I sort of spoke with him, and I was like, look round. And basically his floor tom was there was quite a big gap between the rim of the kick drum and then where the floor tom was.
Right.
To the point you could fit an 8-inch tom in that gap.
Yeah.
And for me, the two fundamentals I noticed with Liam was, so when he was doing a drum fill, he was having to, I'll try and describe it as best as possible, he was actually having to twist his torso to the right and almost bring his shoulder, his right arm, his right shoulder and his right elbow back to be able to hit the centre of the floor tom. Plus also it widened the distance between the rack and the floor tom, because an off-centre rack tom on a snare stand. So such a big gap. And I just thought, the reason this was happening, I think, was because he had his ride cymbal. He had two crashes on the right. His ride cymbal, because he didn't have a second boom stand, to have the second crash hit ball, the ride had to be very far forward, which then meant to avoid hitting the ride, he had to shift his floor tom. But what I sort of said to him was like, I said to him, like, I think we need to adjust actually where you're putting your floor tom and your ride cymbal, because I don't think it's doing you any favours. Not only is the gap between your rack and your floor really big, but when you do a fill, you have to physically twist your torso at the midriff, and pull your shoulder back. So you're just not getting a really good. You're restricting your movement, plus adding extra distance. So we shifted things around, and I sat at the kit, and I said, "This is where I have my floor tom." I'm saying it's the perfect position. But I was like, but now I can hit the floor tom, bang in the centre, and I don't even have to move my body, I could just stay still, barely my arms even move, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's just going to bring you a bit more accuracy, a bit more speed. And what we'll do is we'll sort out where these cymbals are. And then also as well, the other thing was like, he had his left crash next to the hi-hat really high.
Yeah.
Kind of, I think, an image thing. But it's like, it's too high. You're not striking the crash cymbal properly where your natural instinct is to move the stick. It's not catching it well enough. And so we just looked as well at like his cymbal height. So when he's rocking out on the crash on the right, where's that natural place for the best sounds to come from the crash cymbal? And so I just think that's something, you know, I see a lot of stuff on Reddit as well. New drummers, to be fair, who have maybe bought their first kit second hand or something, and they have it set up, and it's as you can imagine.
Yeah.
You know, when you go to a drum shop or you see drum kits set up by non-drummers, school drums. There's 2 rack toms in the kick drum, and they're very far apart and very angled in, you know, like frog eyes, you know, and things like that. And there's someone on Reddit who there's like a kind of, I'd love to reach out to them, see if they're I think they're considered like the king of the Reddit drums, like with their info. They're always posting. They're like seen as quite a very informative, helpful, respected person on the drum communities on Reddit. And they've written like a guide to ergonomics. I haven't, of how to set up a kit for beginners maybe. But I just think it's, whether you're a beginner or not, the ergonomics of where you're setting things up, I think is still something to be aware of and to not be afraid to change.
Yeah.
Because I also recently, as you know, raised my stool a bit to help with like a hip problem. Yeah. And that's worked wonders with the hip. But then it's going, well, now is my floor tom too low?
Yeah.
Am I setting my kit up in a way to maximize my drumming?
Yeah.
And if I'm fitting my drumming to my kit, is that helpful or not helpful? If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've had any.
I've raised my stall over the years because I think that's the main one. And I think just watching other drummers do that. I mean, Ben from Royal Blood, if you look at him, he's almost not standing up, but like his legs, they're like, it's not 90-degree angle. It's like, he's really high up. But I think, you know, every now and then I'll be like, let me put a crash high for the image thing, you know, because Taylor Hawkins did it. And if you look at how high Taylor Hawkins' cymbals were on the last tour he did, it was ridiculous. It was way too high, you know. But if he can play them and it looks cool, then it works. But yeah, but it's like an ongoing thing. I still don't think I've, you know, cracked my perfect, I don't know, setup. You know, the main thing is trying to make sure that I get rim shots consistently. So with that, it's like, right, well, where does the stall need to be? That's kind of the thing I go with. I'm like, right, okay, how high does the stall need to be for rim shot city? But yeah, but it's an ongoing thing, you know. I feel like my kit's slightly different every gig.
So that's what I try and avoid.
Yeah, this is
That's what I'm really conscious of trying to avoid. I think I'm like that with everything in my life. Like no, this has in the flat. No, this drinks mat has to be here.
Yeah,
you know, that's where it goes. That's its place. There's an order to things. But I think it's. But also as well, it's interesting, I guess, because when you see someone else play, that's why I was trying to with Liam. It was like, I don't want to just tear him apart here and go, this is how I have it set up. I didn't want to be like, this is how I have it, so you should have it set up like this. I was really trying to be like, for how you're playing, it doesn't look comfortable.
Yeah,
it looks like your body wants to be somewhere else, or you would gain efficiency by moving that closer in.
Yeah.
And that's probably not something that's thought of, but it was like, I think the problem isn't actually your the lack of a boom stand for your second crash on the right is forcing you to move your floor tom way too out of position.
Yeah.
And then you're having to adjust to that playing wise, and that just doesn't work.
No.
But it's also, any other drummer, you go and sit at their kit, it's weird.
Yeah.
It is. So it's not a case of going, oh, there's a perfect drum setup for everyone and this is how it should be.
Yeah.
But I think there's certain elements that can apply to everyone of, making sure your stool is the right height for your body,
Yeah.
for your leg length and for your height. Making sure, one thing you can see commonly on beginner kits, they have the hi-hat and the kick pedal, like the two pedals are so far apart.
Yeah.
And it's actually, no, you should have them so your just legs are angled and your feet are straight,
Yeah.
and that your cymbal height should be to maximize how you naturally hit
Yeah.
the crash. Now, there are certain things, I guess, as well. It's like, well, if you don't have technique or you're not an experienced drummer and you're just hitting the crash wrong, well, then don't angle your crash so mental that works. There should be like fundamentals that as a drummer you should learn, but then also you have to then at some point be willing to position your kit for how you play, depending on your arm length, your weight, your size, that your height, all that sort of thing. Because any other drum kit setup is any other drummer's setup. If you go and sit on it, I can't play on a kit do you know what I mean? If I sit at your kit, to me it's alien.
Yeah.
It's not that different at all.
No.
But it's the natural instinct, and that's why it's like I want everything where I have it, so I don't even have to think about hitting it.
Yeah.
If I move my arm there, that is going to hit the crash.
Yeah.
Sweet. I don't even have to look at it.
Yeah.
I know it's there. Same things. And then I remember you noticed when we did that gig in the summer, the 505s one.
Yes.
And you were like, your kit looks like it's just falling in on itself.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
And it's weird because my hi-hats tilt towards me.
Yep.
To gig because I've got long legs, so my pedal's a bit further away, but the hats are closer. But then actually my snare drum slightly tilts away from me.
Yeah.
So he's just got this weird, like someone's put a gravity bomb in the middle of the kick drum and it's just kind of gone.
Yeah. No, it does feel weird. And I actually remember sitting at Liam from Young Pine's kit once. I'd sat in on one of their rehearsals and we were sort of, sharing ideas for a drum part. And I was like, oh, I've got an idea, And I sat at his kit. I remember sitting down and being like, oh my God, I'm straddling this snare drum. Like his stool felt so close to the snare, but then the hi-hat felt like it was almost back. And, it's just, that's the way he plays. And he, great drummer, but it was just like, I was like, I can't play like this. You know what I mean? So yeah, it is interesting. And it's interesting that there isn't any sort of like, I don't know, specific guides. You think about riding a bike and it's like your seat should be this height so your legs touch the ground at this point and your handlebars should be, whereas drums, it's kind of, I don't know, if you look at Dave
I think
Grohl,
I'll check out this guy's ergonomics guide. I'll have a proper read through. But I think I do see come up a lot is there is sort of a bike seat height thing, like with your stool, like that you shouldn't be at 90 degrees.
Yeah.
Like your thigh, you should be slightly up so your thigh does angle down slightly.
Yeah.
Maybe is there an element of, one thing I also see on Reddit a lot in the drum world is people going, I want to start drums, I want to learn to play drums, what do I do? And you get kind of two main schools of thought, and one is, oh, go on YouTube, there's loads of cool things, blah blah.
Yeah.
And the other one is get a teacher.
Yeah.
So I wonder, and this could be the same with a lot of things, the two worlds I'm in, drumming and sort of music production. You see some of the questions people are answering, and not to shit on them because it's great people want to start, but their questions are so basic that it's like, well, this gets answered if someone teaches you.
Yeah.
Because the natural order of things when I was a kid, well, if you want to play drums, you get a drum teacher. There was no real other kind of, YouTube didn't exist.
Yeah.
Online learning didn't exist. And whilst I wasn't formally trained in music production, I was formally trained in music. And so whether there's an element of people kind of now, their first port of call for education in drumming is online rather than another person teaching them. And is that leading to, whereas a teacher would help you with your basic ergonomics of things like you want the stool this sort of height for your height and, you know, your leg length and things like that. But that kind of gets, you know, skipped over if you're just learning from YouTube or just playing yourself. And there's nothing wrong if you want to play drums and you buy yourself a drum kit, you can just start hitting the thing and it sounds like a drum kit.
Yeah.
You know, and then you can actually go online, but that's where you're going to miss out on maybe sort of fundamental basics of things, and that's why people's kits just look weird because no one's told them how to set up a drum kit. You know, they don't figure that that's an element of learning drums. It's drum setup, drum maintenance, reskinning, tuning, all these sorts of things. And although I didn't have a drum teacher for that long, but I did have a drum teacher for, 3 years. Well, that's the guy I asked.
Yeah.
And you put your trust in him. He's a drum teacher, so he knows. And so maybe there's an element of, because of the resources available online, that they kind of, I'd like going, I want to ride a BMX and watching YouTube videos of people doing jumps.
Yeah.
Well, when you do your, what's it called, your cycling proficiency test,
yeah,
and things like that when you're a kid, that maybe gets like skipped out. I don't know. But I'd like to see if, I'd love to see listeners' drum setups.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Not to critique them or to shit on them, but I'd just love to see what sort of what sort of setups people have got, whether it be acoustic kit or electric kit, just to see like a kind of, like an aerial pic where if you just like from drummer's perspective, but just hold the camera so you can just sort of see it from above, sort of thing. But it'd just be interesting to see what sort of what sort of setups
it would
people have.
Yeah, and
I just think it's something that we should think about. And just because I've had my setup sort of similar way for years doesn't mean I'm not thinking about those ergonomics and things as well.
Yeah, because it is wild how different it can be. Even if you've got the same exact kit of 2 crashes, a ride, 2 toms, snare and kick, hi-hat, it's like it can be wildly different, from every kit, every player. But so send them in, listeners.
Yeah, send them in.
Right, should we wrap it up?
Yeah, let's wrap it up, boy.
But how do you do it? Have you got a weird kit set up? Do you? I can't think of anything else. You're better at this than me.
No, I think send us your pics of your kits.
Yep.
Let's get some drum kit porn going on.
Let's get some kit pics.
Kit pics. Yeah, I like it. Thanks for listening.
Yes.
Thanks for those of you who did reach out on Instagram. About my dad. That was very kind of you. Getting through it, and sort of keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going, and it's not long till the old Christmas, is it?
No.
Now? So we're going to have a think about if there's anything we're going to do as a podcast.
Yeah. A Christmas
especially
special.
for Christmas. And also happy birthday, George.
Oh yeah, that'll be today. That'll be when you listen to this.
Yeah, I've sort of overshadowed your birthday with my dead dad.
It's okay.
And I'm sorry about that.
It's all right. Don't worry about it.
But yeah, today is George's birthday.
Yeah.
The day this comes out.
Yeah.
It's George's birthday. What you got planned, boy? What you got planned? You're ill, so you're hoping that subsides.
Yeah.
By your actual
I
birthday.
am. Going out for breakfast, and then...
Now you're talking. Going
out for breakfast at Moksha. Really nice place in Brighton. Then going bowling with some mates. And then...
Temping?
Yeah. I mean, what is the other kind?
Don't know.
But maybe that Wii Sports where it's 100 pin. And then going to a gig in the evening. Gig mad. It's me.
Just go to gigs now.
Concord 2.
Are you hoping you go to enough, a drummer will be ill and you go...
Well, that is the dream, isn't it?
I'll have to save it for another time, but there's the freshman year gig I did. I'll teaser it with... This was a gig where I was asked beforehand if they could play my drums.
Oh, yeah.
They wanted to play No One Knows by Queen of the Stone Age.
Right. Tricky song.
I said, no, can't play my drums. This was done via the agency. And then they said, okay, can the band play it anyway? So I was like, I got to learn. No one knows.
Yeah.
Fine. Yeah, tricky.
Yeah.
But they dressed up for this party, punk rock.
Yeah.
So he had a mohawk and, they had like fake sleeve tattoos and denim, They all looked great. It was all fun. In his belt clip, pair of drumsticks.
Amazing. Just in case.
Yeah.
I love that. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you more about that next
Wow,
time.
I look forward to it. But
yeah, you got a big birthday breakfast, big birthday bowling, big birthday bash.
yeah. And then, from there, see what else happens. There's a lot of drink related things coming up. Now that I have this, job where there's more than just me, there's all sorts of, you come in for drinks for,
the corporate
someone's
Christmas party.
Yeah, there's not even reasons for a lot of the drinks, it's just like, Sarah's had I don't know, gallstone removed. I don't know, not that, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. So the bunions fixed.
Yeah,
Cool.
exactly.
Let's
yeah,
have that.
so we're going out.
See you at the Slug and Lettuce.
Yeah, exactly that. So yeah, might be an alky by end of December, but we'll see. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, happy birthday, mate.
Cheers. Much appreciated. Let's wrap it up.
We'll see you next week. Thanks for listening. Drum and Drummer, Instagram, Twitter, email. Send us your kit pics. We really want to see those kits.
Really want to see those
kits. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Drum and Drummer. You can find us on Instagram at Drum and Drummer Podcast. And you can send us an email to drumanddrummerpod@gmail.com. Remember, just pick up the sticks and twat it.